very warm welcome to all of you. It's my pleasure today to introduce to you Professor Irudya Rajan, who is going to be speaking on the Kerala Migration Surveys. We are very fortunate to have him with us today. And Professor Rajan was a professor at the Center for Development Studies in Kerala, and he has nearly 4 decades of postgraduate experience. Currently, he is the chairperson of IMAD, the International Institute of Migration and Development. He is also the chair of NOMAD, the Global Knowledge Partnership on Migration and Development at the World Bank. Professor Rajan is very widely published, and he is the editor of the journal Migration and Development. He is also the editor of the annual series of the India Migration Report since 2010 and the South Asia Migration Report since 2017. And we've also been very fortunate to have Professor Rajan as a visiting professor with us at IIT Hyderabad for nearly 5 years. So very warm welcome to you, Professor Rajan, and we're looking forward to your lecture on the Kerala Migration Survey. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Amrita, for inviting me to be part of this particular program to give you a broad overview on the Kerala Migration Surveys we do for last 25 years. In fact, it is a silver jubilee year for the Kerala Migration Survey. I will give you a brief background on the survey. And when I landed up in Kerala in 1987 as a demographer, first 10 years we were looking at a demographic transition, being a demographer looking at fertility, mortality, and little bit migration. And fertility was almost below the replacement level, close to what we call them TFR is 1.8, and replacement level has already reached in Kerala in 1990s. And when you look at the mortality, the life expectancy was very, very high, close to 70 years. And as a demographer, we normally deal with the 3 components of demographic change: fertility, mortality, and migration. Though the Kerala knows so much about their fertility transition and mortality transition, and they think these are the 2 transitions belong to demographic transition, there was nothing about either internal migration and international migration. And it was like we are all living in darkness in Kerala on migration. And that period of time, K.C. Sakaria, who was with us as a honorary professor at Center for Development Studies, where I was working as a faculty, he came and told me one day, look, now I am close to 75, and I have written a UN manual on migration, and my first research when I was young, I was 30s, I did a project on migrants in Greater Bombay. And I want to do a last study in my life should be on migration. I started my research career in migration and I want to end my life career in migration. But I can't do alone. Can you help me to be part of the study, to be part of the migration study? I agreed, yes. And we were prepared the proposal. And we submitted to several funding agencies. None of them were interested to fund a migration survey in 1998. The world has changed now. But that time, we were rejected in many funding agencies. Finally, in 1987, we received a funding from the ICSSR, Indo-Touch Program on Development. We call them ITPAD, which now not existing with ICSSR right now. They have agreed to fund the study for 50 lakhs in 1998. And it was probably the biggest study they funded in 1998. And we did the first Kerala Migration Survey. I also want to tell you, this is probably the first ever migration survey conducted globally. Yeah, there was not much interest on migration survey at that time. This survey produces both internal migration estimate and international migration estimates. That is the beauty of this survey. And also it will provide you lot of database on migration. That has led to many people to work on migration. And this KMS data is available in the public domain. I've seen people have written PhD thesis at IIT Chennai, IIM Indore, full thesis based on the KMS. So the data, what we produce, has been used extensively by the researchers globally. Now, if you look at the Kerala Migration Survey, as I said earlier, started in 1998 with 10,000 households. That was the biggest survey conducted in Kerala in 1998. That's where the cost is involved. When you do a large-scale survey, you need larger money. Because migration is a rare event. If you want to estimate migration, you need a larger sample size. And we did it, and we never thought that we will continue to run the migration survey. We thought we will do the survey and close our shop and forget about the survey, and we do our other surveys, other business. But this Kerala Migration Survey results were published every newspaper at the time in 1998. Every newspaper, every magazine, every journals want to, requested us to write for them. And we have published the KMS result in International Migration Journal of IOM continuously in 2 issues. The full finding was published in 2000 in the International Migration Journal. You can imagine that study led lot of researchers to understand what is happening in Kerala. And what is provided? It provided the migrants' profile, migration cost, remittances, impact on migration on the Kerala economy, starting with the individuals, families, communities, and societies. This was the major finding, if I want to say, in 2 sentences. And then we thought that there was a high demand. We could generate funding for the next round of survey in 2003, exactly 5 years. And you can see right now, we have done 9 rounds. Some rounds were wanted by somebody. You please do it, we will fund it. 2007 was funded by the Kerala government completely. 2011 was funded by World Bank. 2016 was funded by New York University. These are all specially funded round requested us to do this survey. But I wanted to continue our rounds in every 5 years, 98, 2003, 2008. And 2008 was again funded by the Kerala Planning Board. Then we thought we'll increase the sample to 15,000 households. And we increased it. And in 23, we just completed, we had 20,000 households plus 10,000 households. We call them the panel data. So the KMS has a panel between 1998 to 2023. We have 10 panels. We are following the same household for over a period of 25 years. Some household for 25 years, some household for 20 years, some 15 years, some 10 years, and some 5 years. These data are also available in the public domain if people would like to look at it. But many of us are very happy to do research on cross-sectional data. And people are not even aware of how to utilize the panel database, because panel data, you have to look for new methodologies to work on the panel data, because it's a live data. You are following a household for the 25 years. And the household changes, individual changes, you can study that. And this is a basic, what is called the Kerala Migration Survey over the 25 years, 98, 2003, 8, 13, 18, and 23. The changes, increased sample from 10,000 household to 15,000 in 2008. 2023, we increased to 20,000 household. And you can see publication related to the KMS everywhere. We have produced 14 working papers at Center for Development Studies, Zakaria and myself. You can look at it. It's all available in the public domain. And many books, which I'll come back to you later. And another advantage I want to tell you in this lecture is that this Kerala model of migration survey has been replicated in other states. That's also important for us to look at it. This model or this large-scale survey to provide estimates were used by several states. I want to give you some idea on that. We have done the study in Tamil Nadu. It's called Tamil Migrant Survey in 2015, and it was published as a book. It is also available in the public domain. It was based on 20,000 households in Tamil Nadu. And we followed up again a survey in 2008 in Goa. It's called the Goa Migration Study 2008, completely funded by the Department of NRI Affairs, Government of Goa. And the Tamil Nadu study was funded by the Tamil Nadu State Planning Commission. So we were able to move to other states to get funding. And after Goa, we also did what is called the Punjab Migration Survey with the 10,000 households. That was also published by Routledge, called the Passages of Fortune, Exploring Dynamics of International Migration from Punjab. That is also available in the public domain. We have given some technical advice to what is called the Gujarat state. But in the meantime, we also brought out, as Amrita was telling, we started a series called the India Migration Report in 2010, and it's completed 15 years. We have devoted the 2020 India Migration Report to publish papers based on the Kerala Migration Survey and other state surveys. That is available again in the public domain. And we also given technical support and sampling to Gujarat. And some of you probably know that we have completed the survey in Jharkhand in 2023 and also in Orissa in 2023. New 2 states were added, and the both state results were published in Economic and Political Weekly. And Orissa Migration Survey 2023 will be published as a book with Springer, which is edited by both Amrita and myself, funding from the International Planned Fair and Good Federation through IIT. And that book also will be available as an open access so that people can look at the data, and we'll also release the data of Orissa and Jharkhand along with Kerala probably in January 2026. And we are in discussion with many states: Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, second round, Bihar and West Bengal. We are all in touch with them to see that we can do one surveys. And it's all, election is coming in Bihar, we wanted to do. And Tamil Nadu, they say election is going to happen. Something is happening around, we are not able to get funding because convincing the people to do a migration survey, it's a very big task. Still, we were pleased. We have done at least in 6 major states: Tamil Nadu, Gujarat, Jharkhand, Orissa, Punjab, and Goa. And you can also look at some of the publications based on the KMS, the model of surveys. You can look at it. We have published a book called The Return Migrants in Kerala, Kerala's Gulf Connection, Diaspora in Kerala's Development and Migration Development. We have done that so that people can do research using the KMS data. And the next one I would like to probably spend some time is the methodology of this particular survey. And I'll give you very brief detail. This survey is based on stratified random sampling. Stratified random sampling, and it is also survey based on households. So we have 2 stratas, rural and urban strata. And we go to the rural, our basic database is villages. Urban, it is towns. Then we select randomly a villages. And then we select a sample frame from there based on the number of households we require. For example, the recent survey we have done in Kerala, we have done 500 localities in 40 households each. 20,500 localities. If you plot the locality, a dot, you can see that we have almost covered every part of Kerala state. And this is what the idea is, basically to provide a reliable estimate at the district and state level. That was the motivation for having a larger sample. And this is the methodology we use. Almost all the places we have done the migration surveys. And we have documented this methodology in a book so that it will continue to engage researchers to look at this. Because otherwise, the methodology will be dead. It will be written a little bit, but we have written the full methodology people can do. And it is not even a copyright with us. Anybody can utilize this method and run any survey anywhere in the world. Recently, I was talking to the Sri Lankan government. You can think of a Sri Lankan migration survey based on the Kerala model of migration survey, because your Sri Lanka population is only 23 million. That's it. And that is Kerala itself, 30 million. You can imagine the state we have done except Goa. All other states are bigger than Sri Lanka. So they can do that. And they're also thinking of planning for a Sri Lanka migration survey. So we can do, in any country in the world, you can do this particular model. And we have published this book at the time of Sakaria's 90th birthday. This is called Researching International Migration. It's a textbook. This is being used in many universities for their migration course. It's like a simple reading textbooks. People can look at it. People can understand the various facets of international migration. And this was fully funded by the Ministry of Overseas Indian Affairs, which now not existing. It was existed from 2004 to 2016. And we had a research unit on international migration, fully funded by the MOEF for 10 years. And one of the projects we did was writing this book. And I also want to tell you, because this book was selling well for the publisher, they requested us to write a companion book on researching internal migration. The internal migration also important for us to look at it, especially after COVID, very important. And of course, problem is there is no data. We had 2011 census, which is the biggest data. Then we have only surveys. We have the, we have of course the latest count of Orissa and Jharkhand, which talks about internal migrants. We also have some data on the multiple indicator survey, which gives you some idea on internal migration. That book is called Researching Internal Migration, also published by Routledge, but the authors are myself and Professor R.P. Bhagat, who is currently a professor at IIPS Mumbai. And before I conclude, I thought I'll give you some findings of this Kerala Migration Survey for you to understand how we have influenced policies in Kerala. In fact, Kerala is coincidence. Kerala was set up a Department of Non-Resident Keralite Affairs in 1986. And our results came in 1998. So if you can look at it, last 25 years, the Department of Non-Resident Keralite Affairs have developed several programs to implement among migrants and returned migrants. Most of the program based on the KMS database. So KMS data has really been used extensively by the Kerala government, including their latest addition of Loka Kerala Sabha. Loka Kerala Sabha means nothing but Keralites living in other parts of India and the world. So for giving a representation, you need some database. We said 80% of the Kerala migrants are in the Gulf. So they have to have a 80% representation from the Gulf countries. And the latest Kerala Migration Survey results were published in Migration and Development Journal. You can look at it. It was published in 2004 for the wider audience. I want to give you the link between migration and development for a few minutes, and I'll stop there. One of the important finding for people to think how important the Kerala migration for the Kerala economy is that 1/3 of the Kerala population is directly or indirectly benefited by migration. Directly or indirectly. Now, what do you mean by directly? Kerala has at any point of time having 2 million people living outside. Now, these 2 million people, it can be men, it can be nurse, it can be housemaid, it can be engineer. They are supporting 8 million people back at home. 8 million people back at home. Their spouse, they are not married, their parents and their siblings, they support 4 people. If they are married, their spouse and 2 children, maybe one of the parents. And you can imagine that 8 million people are supported by 2 million people in the Gulf. And that is basically 1/3 of the Kerala population directly getting benefits. Because of the government, because of the migrants and remittances, you also see a lot of housing coming up. Housing boom in Kerala happens because of migration, especially international migration. And you can imagine English medium school, private hospitals, everything, whatever you talk about in Kerala, there will be some link to migration investment. You can see the biggest investment by Lulu Mall. He was a immigrant from Kerala. So you can imagine Kerala has been transformed in the through migration. That's why Kerala was called in earlier days money order economy. Money order economy, because Kerala was surviving through internal migration from 1960 to 1980. From 1980, it was international migration. So the Kerala is now called not money order economy, but remittance economy. You can imagine the implications of migration among households, among society, among communities. Look at it. When I came to Kerala, the Kerala had only one airport. Infrastructure. Today, Kerala has 3 additional airports. You have an airport in Kochi, you have an airport in Calicut, you have an airport in Kannur. That means the infrastructure required for migration is expanding. And similarly, the student migration. Because of the students want to leave now, you have a lot of educational infrastructure is coming into Kerala to export or convince the people to go for migration outside the country. That's why I said one of the important thing is 1/3 of the Kerala populations are directly or indirectly benefited by migration. Second is its impact on poverty. I was telling one of the persons, there would have been no migration from Kerala, there would have been probably starvation deaths. Now there is no starvation deaths in Kerala. Thanks to migration. Even poor people could migrate to Gulf. They will borrow some money to go to Gulf and they reback the loan and they do make some money. So you can imagine it reduced poverty. When they come back, they are above poverty line. Even the government claiming we reduced poverty. I always tell them, you are not reduced poverty. People who are poor left Kerala and they return, you normally make them above poverty line because they will have some assets which you define they are above poverty line. They will have a refrigerator. They will have cycle. They will have telephone. So you look at some indicators and then you define people who are above poverty line and they are poverty. And then impact on employment. And nobody unemployed in Gulf. Anybody went from Kerala to Gulf, they are not unemployed. They are all employed. There is no unemployment visa in the Gulf. You have to get the employment visa, then you live there. Kerala is supposed to be the highest unemployment. Can you imagine if the unemployed people have not left, what would have happened to Kerala? So Kerala reduced unemployment due migration, not by any great policies by any governments. They do policies to promote little employment, but then the migration is a huge employment opportunity for the migrants. It also creates a standard of living index. If you do standard of living or HDA, everything Kerala is number 1. Why? You talk about ownership of houses, quality of houses, LPG connection, consumer durable, car, anything you imagine in Kerala will be buying it. That's why every car, when it's released, new car is coming to the market, the highest number sold is in Kerala. Because they have what we call them the purchasing power through remittances and migrants. Migration also reduce what we call them reducing inequality. When the poor migrates and make money, there is a income is being redistributed through migration. Poor are getting money and they are also constructing a house, good house, compared to people who are working in our country. That's why I always tell them, if you go from Trivandrum to Kasaragod, you see a big house. The house probably belongs to a migrant or a returned migrant who is from Kerala or a corrupted officials in Kerala. They can also construct a house. But the corrupted money is a black money. Other money is a blood money. They are working in very hot climatic conditions and sending money back home. So that is a blood money. the money, the corruption which is happening in our country, they also build big houses that is called, I call them black money. There is a difference between black money and black money. And it's also creating what I call them new rich and old rich in Kerala. Now, some people here, they say now, we were rich before migration. My father had an ambassador. People are very proud to say, my family ambassador. But today, the new migrant might be buying another car. So he thinks he is a new rich. So there is a big debate is going on in Kerala. Even at the time of marriage, people want to marry their children between their group. No longer economics here. It is new rich. They want to marry between the new rich or the old rich. And old rich who are rich, historically, they don't want to marry with somebody who has recently made money and become rich by going to Gulf. I think this is something, what we call them, the benefits of the migration. And the last part of the class will be, migration brings benefits. It also brings social cost of migration, which we have brought out even from the first Kerala migration survey. First Kerala migration survey, first time about the social cost of migration. This is defined as very simple. People never move, but they are affected by somebody's migration. Somebody's migration. And that's what we call them three groups of people. They never move, they are affected. Women, children, and elderly. Or you can talk to them, spouse, siblings, and parents. The first one is women left behind. In Kerala, for the last 25 years, close to 1 million married women whose husbands are working in the Gulf. 1 million married women. You can imagine the impact on those families, on those women, in terms of managing the household, in terms of managing the children. In fact, one lady told me when we did survey, I can manage my family if my husband is away, but managing the in-laws, oh my God, it's very difficult. So managing in-laws, they have to do sometime. Managing even older persons in the household. They might need, somebody is bedridden, you have to look after your husband's parents. So managing the elderly parent left behind because the son is away, and their own children. And and then some of them said that I resigned my job, I can't even work because I have so much work at home. How can I work? And my husband says you don't need to work because whatever I earn, let us manage it. So I am studied, I have educated, I had a job before marriage. I had a job before my husband went to Gulf, but now I'm not able to work. So there are issues related to women left behind, and this is, so we have 1 million women, and similarly, you have 4 million children, 4 million parents, 4 million parents in Kerala. They are living alone, either living alone as a widow or widower, or living alone as the couples. Both of them are old. Husband is 85, wife is 80. Children are not there. They have less children sometimes, but still nobody is available to take care of them. And so we are talking about elderly care, living arrangements, elderly residence, short-term care, long-term care, insurance, dementia, Alzheimer. So you can imagine children are not there. How these elderly managing them? Somebody talks about remote care. Even you are in other countries, you can talk to your parents or the lady who is looking after your parents. Did you give my father medicine on time? So they have a diary and call the servants and call the mother. If you take the medicine, you are supposed to take now 9 o'clock. It's called remote care is happening. So that the physical care is no longer available for many elderly. And also many elderly, if even you die, we may not be able to even bury it on the same day because my son has to come from Canada or Australia. So even the women and the parents feel, even I die, I will be in the mobile mortuary for 3 to 4 days because the children have to come. Imagine the implication of son's migration on the elderly who have died and put in the mobile mortuary. This is a social cost of migration. And finally, we have children left behind. Children left behind. This is another big story. There are children, just one child, two child, of course, just one children, and they have nobody to even spend some time except either father or mother. Most of the children are living with either mother, father is migrated, or either father, mother went as a nurse, or both of them went away as engineer, as high-skilled migrants. Children are staying with their grandparents, and children are staying with boarding school. So we have 4 ways people are staying. Children staying with both parents. We are not talking about the children staying with mother, or father, or grandparents, or in the boarding school. If the children growing up in 4 different environments, when they become adults, how do they look like? How do they behave? How do they see the world? I think these are all very, very important. We should look at it. I think it is creating a lot of social cost and social issues, which I can see and I can look at it for quite some time. Some of them are very serious. Yes, we are sitting on a very hot belt. When it will come out, we don't know, but there are issues on the social cost, especially on women, children, and the elderly. But we need to do more work on social cost, because social costs are not measurable. Economic benefits are measurable. You ask a wife how much your husband sends you money, she can tell you, he sent 20,000 rupees. Because of that, my children go into English medium school. They are planning to construct a house. This is, she can tell. You can measure it. But if you ask her, are you missing your spouse? Then he came last time. When did he call you last time? When you started about thing, her face started changing. That indicate we are talking the social cost, which is not measurable. That's why last time we had a question to all the women whose husbands are away. Assuming you have a daughter, would you like to marry to a boy who is in the Gulf? 85% of the women said no. Let the sufferings be with us. We want our daughter to marry someone who lives with her, not who is away with her. That means she realized that the importance of staying together, and she don't want that to happen to their daughters. I think that's a great understanding of the social cost of migration. I will stop here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Right. Thanks so much, Professor Rajan, for that very, very wide-ranging and, enriching talk on the Kerala Migration Survey. I just have a quick question, how, like you started with how in the 1980s, there were Gulf streams of migration, and now we know that these streams are really diversified. Migrants from Kerala go all across the world. Now, my question really is that, given all the regulations that we have at destination countries and so on, and that, intersecting with the increasing aspirations of migrants from all over India, including Kerala, what sense do you make of the current international migration regime, which has become very restrictive? How do you see that playing out in the near future for migrants or potential migrants or prospective migrants?
No, I think this is an important point. I normally talk about the migration transition. Like you have theory of demographic transition. I now discuss many times on theory of migration transition. And the best example is Kerala. In 1950s and 60s, there were 4 trains which are very famous in Kerala. Trivandrum, Mumbai, Trivandrum, Chennai, Trivandrum, Delhi, and Trivandrum, Bangalore. And these train migrants were going. So it is a internal migration is the first time Kerala people were experiencing. And prior to 1956, Kerala was a in-migrating state. Kerala receiving more people than Kerala was sending in 1956. Because Kerala people are very happy. They have good water here and they have food. In fact, when you look at the Kerala's demography, in 1911-21, the whole India had a negative population growth rate. Only one area there was no negative was Kerala. There were not more. That indicated Kerala people were reasonably looked after well, and the density was helping them. And then they had, clean water, no big industry, and they have their own food habits like fish, kappa, and coconut water. These are all very, very good food. You don't get now. It's a very different story. So they were happy. They were not migrating. But then when the 1956 Kerala opened up, they were highly educated than any other states. And they started moving to cities, 4 cities, Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai and Bangalore. That people who left there, still they are there, many people. That is a first wave of migration from Kerala. That benefited only part of Kerala. We call them Tiruvangur Cochin, because Malabar literacy was very poor. Though the Kerala is combination of Tiruvangur Cochin and Malabar, predominantly Muslims, they were not participating the internal migration. So that's the second stage. What is called the Kerala was in migration, then moved to internal migration. And 1980s, when the Gulf opened up, the internal migration slowly started coming down. And then they picked up what we call them the international migration. And you see then, the train still continues, but then we have now 4 airports, Trivandrum, Dubai, Trivandrum, Abu Dhabi. In fact, we have more flight to Gulf every day, at least 50 flights, even compared to, say, Trivandrum to Delhi. We have only 3 flights. Even Hyderabad, we have only 2 flights, direct flight. And also it comes our time. Whereas Trivandrum, Dubai, Trivandrum, Qatar, Bahrain, you have 30, 40 flights every day. You can have a breakfast in Trivandrum and go and you have a lunch in Dubai. So I think the Gulf connection was started. So the whole moved from internal to international. Of course, internal was happening. It's not happening. International migration taken more. Then started the demographies playing. Now Kerala has no people to migrate. Everybody is migrated. Nobody left. So it started slowly coming down to the students. Earlier, the age at migration was after 23, 24. It's a labor migration. Today, the latest KMS indicated people are leaving for BA. Bachelor's people are leaving from Kerala. That means what age we are talking about? 16. Age at first migration is coming to 16. International migration. We are not somebody coming to study BA in Flame or Christ or in IIT. We are talking about they are going out to study BA. In our time, we never talk about BA going. We talk about only PhD people going out. Now, masters is over. Now, people have started moving to bachelor. So that's the new trend setting up. I think so. Kerala's case, the international migration also almost over. Now, Kerala is coming back to the normal, not the new normal. Normal. Kerala is now becoming a in-migrating state after 80 years. Today, we are getting more people coming to Kerala than going out because of the demographic change. Now, we have train coming from Assam to Kerala, Northeast, Orissa, my God. You can imagine the whole migration pattern changed in the last 80 years. I think that's something, the theory of demographic migration transition. Now, when you talk about these barriers to migration, what you are talking about, the barriers to migration, I think the migrants had barriers. It is not like first we have, but I used to talk about barriers. We had 3 barriers. War. We got Gulf War. You know that in 80s, there was a Gulf War. People looked at it. And people thought people came back from Gulf. They went back. So there was a very short phenomenon. Then you got global crisis. It's an economic crisis. We had economic crisis. So we had people came back. Many people from US who studied in abroad came back to India because there were no jobs available at the time. I think the economic crisis brought many people return back, especially high-skilled migrants. They opened up in Bangalore, Hyderabad, new things. I think the economic crisis, pushed back some brain gain. At the same time, then we had what we call them the health crisis, COVID. Imagine when COVID was hit, and also the economic crisis was hit. Many times even World Bank want to predict remittances will come down. I always tell them remittances will not come down because migrants are resilient. This is a word I always use. Even 2008, I said no. Gulf, COVID, I said no. So the migrant overcome the economic crisis. Migrant overcome very sharply in COVID. They are back to normal now. I think that everything. They will overcome the Trump crisis. Trump also, I feel, a crisis. It's a political crisis, not just a Trump. The whole right-wing politics in many places. So it's a very that people are fighting election in the name of migration. I think it is happening even in our own country at some context. People do talk about migration. So I think very, very important is that now migration is a political crisis. So you had economic crisis to health crisis to political crisis. But the migrant will overcome. Yeah, that's what I always feel. Because I was talking to one of the person in America. They said, of course, we have undocumented Indians. Of course, undocumentation is part of the life. You go as a migrants expert, there are undocumented Indians in many countries. We are undocumented Bangladesh. We are talking about, everybody talks about undocumented other nationals. But one thing is true, now we are proved we also have undocumented Indians because the flight came. They're all undocumented. We could not do much. We could not send them back to America because they have proved that they are overstaying, or they came with a wrong visa, or they came through Europe entering without the proper documents. I think undocumented is there. And I asked them what will happen to migration. You know, one expert told me, sir, drum will go, migration will continue. That's what the word they say. Trump has a lifetime. What is his lifetime? One term? Migrants have a long life. But this political term is very short. So somebody will come, he will do some ruptures. Then somebody has to take some time to correct it. He will come and do something. So the point is that migrants will continue. Somebody want to go to America, maybe he's not able to go now. He will go to America maybe after 2 years or after 3 years. I think the dreams of the migrants will continue and they will look for another opportunities. Now people are going to, problems not just in America now. We have problems in Australia. We are talking about problems in UK. I think many countries, now we are talking about India, Germany migration corridor. But maybe after 10 years, we don't know what's going to happen on Germany. We have no idea. Because one politician can, rewrite the migration story in their own country. I think, but it will continue. Migrants will continue to be part of the development for many countries, and India will play a major role in shaping migration in other countries, because this is the only country right now with the excess supply of labor. We call them demographic dividend.
Right, right. No, that's really fascinating. And I think I'm very tempted to ask one question and I'll end it there. So, in the transition theories, the migration transition theories that you spoke about, the other thing that Zelensky says is that as countries develop, emigration also reduces, right? So now in that context, do you see in the near future or in the distant future out-migration in that sense declining from Kerala and even India, since we are having that conversation? What are your broad views on that?
No, I think at the end of the day, what will happen? Because I was also talking to people, because even if you look at it, even Donald Trump, seriously, I was looking at it because many people put a lot of things. I tell very frankly, he talks about migration governance. You look at it, he cannot send anyone who has a proper paper there. Somebody has gone for 5 years as a professor there. Can he send them? No. So I think it's also talks about migration governance and the migration misgovernance. Both are happening. Misgovernance also happening. Agents are coming up. That's why I was telling them, you are talking about one Donald Trump. There will be several Donald Trumps will appear at many countries. Similar type. Oh, now we are getting, same type. You will get more people. Pro-migrant, anti-migrant, all will come up. But at the end of the day, the demography will decide. I think at the end of the day, demography. Today, we are getting people from Northeast and West Bengal. When I came to Kerala in 1980s, I have not seen many Bengalis here. I have not seen many Orias there. Tamils were here. It was predominantly Tamil migrants coming to Kerala. Now, no Tamils are coming here because they were started. The business is over now. So I'm sure that all the people we talk about today, Kerala has to manage at the end of the day by their own people after some time. Because now Oriya people are coming, thinking they are getting more salary, more money. When Oriya people, when the fertility goes down, they have not labor supply. Automatically, there will be, everything will change. So I think that definitely will happen. That way we call them in demography. Demography is destiny. Because now the mortality and fertility is over now. You can't do much. Fertility is over. We are talking about fertility crisis now. We no longer talk about. So fertility crisis is there. No longer we can do nothing about that. You want to increase fertility, I think it's almost impossible. Countries are trying, but rarely they are able to succeed. And people are living longer. You can't do much with that except you bring like a euthanasia bill, like in Netherlands. euthanasia. Then, you can say somebody is not well, you can freeze them up, which is not happening right now in our country. Maybe it will come after some time. I have no idea. So what is you can play in demography? Only migration. And it is highly dynamic. So that is why everybody talking about migration. That's why I was always telling them, 1900 to 1950, it was mortality was the predominant in demographic research. How to reduce mortality. In 1950 to 2000, every countries were talking about how to reduce fertility. That's why we had one child family policy in China in 1979. And 2000 onwards, every country want to talk about migration. Our Prime Minister talks about demographic mission. And I was sitting with a person in UAE recently. He said he was talking about demographic imbalance. I said, this is the first time I'm hearing a word, demographic imbalance. I said, what do you mean? He said, we don't want one country people come and stay here. We want to more country people. So we have decided not to give any visa to Bangladesh this year. No new visas. Demographic imbalance. We want to make it balanced. So I think demography will play a major role in this world, and it will be only on migration. So the migration researchers will have a good time, and I think I am at the right place at the right time to talk about migration. I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Right. Thanks, Professor Rajan, for really shining the demographic lens on migration studies and taking us through the evolution of Kerala studies. We're very grateful. We're very grateful for your time. Thank you very much.